What's up, nerds? This is MTG Man, and I'm just gonna give you like a little talking to about fucking Kitchen Table Showdown. If you want to build decks like these at home, $20 budget decks, these are some of the cards that I think of a lot whenever I'm deck building. Because a lot of these make it into multiple decks. So I think it's just important to like talk about them and show you what goes into some of my building process. So first up, Skyclave Apparition goes into a lot of white decks. It's just a solid piece of removal, and a lot of times it's going to be okay. It's 50 cents, right? 50 cents in a $20 budget, right? That is what? So, 25 cents is one per shit. Is it? No. 20 cents is 1% of your budget. So this is 2.5% of your budget, right? However, if you put in, let's just say, we're going to run 3 copies of it because it's just a solid removal piece. That's 7.5% of your budget. And we already know that your removal consistency has jumped up a lot because it's also a creature too. So it's going to be an attacker, it's going to be a blocker, it's going to be whatever you need on top of removing a creature. It's a lot of consistency for 2.5% is a relatively small amount of your deck value. Street Wraith, this is, again, I think 1.25 or, yeah, 1.25% of your deck, right? This is literally a quarter. And you cycle this. You pay 2 life, you cycle it. You're never going to cast it as a creature. It's just going to help you get through your deck faster. And if you have a black deck and you don't need any other cards in it, there's nothing else to go to your strategy, throw in Street Wraith, all right? You're going to be able to discard it. Sure, you paid 2 life, but you're just going to be able to draw a card for free. Chromatic Star is good for color fixing on top of any deck that needs to be going through the deck faster. It's going to be good to be able to pay 1 mana, pay another mana, get 1 mana back. So basically, it's a 1 mana draw 1, right? 1 mana draw 1 is a good value, and it's going to help you fix your colors. So it's just a solid little card. Shriekhorn is going in every self-mill deck. Every deck that needs to get cards in the graveyard is playing Shriekhorn because, again, it's 25 cents, right? So if you play like 4 of, right, that's $1 total out of your $20 budget. That might sound like a fair bit. I mean, that's 5% of your budget for self-mill, but if the deck needs self-mill, Shriekhorn is going to be one of your best options. Soul Guide Lantern, it's a lot more in the early decks, but the graveyard hate, the draw, all that, this is just going to be, again, you can pay 1 mana to play it, exile a card, great. You pay a 2nd mana, it's a 2 mana draw 1. It really just comes down to whatever you need, and even if your opponent doesn't have a graveyard strategy, you can just pay to draw cards. Wizard's Rockets, it's in almost every single deck. I love the color fixing. It's good for Grim Reminder because having every deck have it means Grim Reminder can hit more things. And overall, it's a 1 mana draw card, and it can fix. That's just great in general. Cathartic Pyre is removal and card draw, so almost every red deck is going to be playing it, or at least trying to be playing it. You can include 3 copies in your deck for $1, right? So 3 cards for 5% of your budget, that's going to be either removal if you need removal, or card draw if you need to get through your deck, you need to get cards in hand. Cathartic Pyre is just a little bit of everything. Disenchant, it's removal. It's simple, it's 15 cents. It's simple, cheap removal. That's the other thing about, like, Wizard's Rockets, right? Not this printing specifically, but this one is 15 cents, right? You can spend 60 cents out of your deck if it's going to mean speeding up your game plan by having something to sacrifice and draw a card. Disenchant, it's 15 cents. You can afford to put 2 copies in, and then you're going to be able to get rid of artifacts and enchantments as long as you can get to your disenchant. Lightning Bolt goes in almost every red deck. It's solid removal for early game. It can finish off creatures late game if you just don't have enough blockers to finish something. Or you can throw it at the opponent's face. It's just It gives you options. A lot of times, Lightning Bolt isn't even going to be... This is going to sound weird because I just said, oh, this 50-cent card, always going to be thought of as an option. Lightning Bolt, putting almost $2 into your deck to get 4 copies of it, sometimes just isn't right for a red deck. Sometimes you want more draw, or you'd prefer to play like Unholy Heat. Unholy Heat is... let's see. Unholy Heat is 25 cents right now. 15 cents for this printing. So it's either, if you want to get rid of creatures better, maybe you run Unholy Heat instead. But Lightning Bolt is just good options. And always remember, right? You want specific over general. Sure, Lightning Bolt is going to be good in every deck, but if you're a red deck, if you're like a black-red deck and you have things in the graveyard, Unholy Heat's going to be better because dealing 6 damage is going to kill more things. And you're just going to be getting more value out of the deck. Mana Tithe isn't even a counter spell sometimes. It's a think spell, because if your opponent thinks they can counter your spell, you have Mana Tithe to protect it, right? Every time your opponent wants to go all out on a play, like turn 5, I'm going to play my 5-drop, you say no. They have to think before every action, as long as they know there's Mana Tithe in your deck. Nature's Claim, this card is only for green decks that seem to have extra budget, because a lot of my green decks do seem to have extra budget. Nature's Claim is probably the best artifact and enchantment removal spell you can play, period. And that's why I would always consider it, but only if you have budget, right? Don't let Nature's Claim take up $1, $2, $3, $4 of your budget, all right? Nature's Claim is only if you have extra. Opt, it's a 1 mana, scry 1, draw 1. It's just going to give you options. It's going to draw through your deck. You always want to have more options than not. Path to Exile. So, I hear what you might be saying. Well, Swords to Plowshares is better, right? Swords to Plowshares is $1 or so. Don't put $4 of your $20 budget, that's what, 20%? Don't put 20% of your budget into 4 removal cards. Put $1.60 into 4 copies, well, a little bit more. $1.80, almost $2, half that, into 4 copies of Path to Exile. Sure, the opponent's going to get a land, whatever, but you're never going to regret having more budget for your deck. The other interesting thing is sometimes your deck wants a land, and if you have a 1-drop, you can Path to Exile your own 1-drop if you really need a land. It's just more options, and sure, Swords to Plowshares is probably better, but budget-wise, I would just rather Path to Exile any day. Return to Nature, this is, again, it's a side grade to Nature's Claim, right? If you don't have the money for Nature's Claim, include at least like 1 Return to Nature. It can hit things in graveyards, it can hit artifacts, it can hit enchantments. At 80 cents less, a lot of times it will be better for your deck than Nature's Claim. But still, if you're playing green and white, play Return to Nature. Don't play Disenchant. Disenchant is just worse Return to Nature. Alright? And I've probably broken that rule in one of my decks without even thinking, but it's 4 cents difference. Take the 4 cents and be able to hit something in the graveyard as well. Spell Pierce, this is very similar in concept to Mana Tithe, where it just makes your opponent think like, okay, did they leave 1 mana up specifically to counter something? Or did they just happen to have 1 mana? All right, it's going to make them second guess their plays. And a lot of times Spell Pierce is going to be spell piercing an opponent's spell. You're going to counter their counter spell is what the best use for a Spell Pierce is. Thought Scour, again, this is similar to Shriekhorn, where every self-mill deck that's going to be running it should run it, because it's just it's opt but different, and in a really good way. Milling you cards is good, drawing a card for 1 is good. Bloodchief's Thirst, though you won't see it in a lot of the decks. This is actually probably one of the best black removal spells because A, it's extremely cheap, B, it's going to be hitting your opponent's small shit, so it's just better to play this over cut down. And if you notice in a lot of my kitchen table showdown, well, not a lot, but a handful of the kitchen table showdown decks, a lot of the creatures are small. Like Sardian Cliff Stomper is going to be the big attacker. You know, getting rid of pack leaders, getting rid of, you know, amassers like Lazatep Channeler, getting rid of, you know, doesn't hit Rosie Cotton, getting rid of Minion of the Mighty. It's just going to hit over the small things that are supposed to become problems. Getting rid of Kudo. It's a good amount of removal, and you can pay to make it better. Which is just why I would include it, because it's a lot cheaper than all the other removal. Like, even though a deck, sure, probably Infernal Grasp is better, but Infernal Grasp is like $1 something a piece right now. I think even Doomblade is probably more. I just rather have the consistency of Bloodchief's Thirst than just whatever else is going on. Next up, Cathartic Reunion. Specifically, the Assassin's Creed printing is 15 cents. You can spend 60 cents to have a full playset of Cathartic Reunions in every red deck, because just having that draw is always going to be important. Especially, these decks are lower power level, right? They need to be drawing as much as they can so that they don't have dead hands. Commune with Nature. This is going to be green's, like, quote-unquote draw spell. And you got to remember, too, with Commune with Nature, specific over general, right? Commune with Nature is good. It's going to get you a creature, right? However, if you're playing dinosaurs, you don't play Commune with Nature. You play Commune with Dinosaurs, because all the creatures in the deck are dinosaurs, and this is also going to let you pick a land then if you want a land instead, right? Or if you're playing an enchantment-based deck like, let's see, where is it? There is an enchantment-based deck here. It's got green. Like Mono Green Desert Burn, right? You're going to play Commune with the Spirits. Sure, it's going to do one less card, but you want the enchantment more than you want a creature, right? This is another case of this card is representing a whole bunch of other cards, but it's pretty simple. Next up is Duress and Inquisition of Kozilek to a lesser extent. Duress fills in deck slots. It's extremely cheap, and it'll disrupt your opponent's hand, so it's just all around good. Inquisition of Kozilek is probably better. It's going to throw off your opponent's early plays, but both cards just in general are going to be good ways for black decks to disrupt the opponent. Faithless Looting, this one, sure, not this printing, right? But if we get like a Thunder Junction Commander printing, you can run a full playset of Faithless Looting for $1. And like I've said before, you want as much draw power as possible, so being able to have a full playset of Faithless Looting is going to be pretty strong. I mean, it was banned for a while, and I forget what format. It's still banned in Modern, because it's just that good of a card. Magmatic Insight is just a different Faithless Looting. It's drawing 2 cards. It's going hand neutral, technically, as long as you have a land to discard, right? It's just always going to be important to be able to discard things you don't need. Every deck that's focused on artifacts and is red needs Reckless Handling. It's a 25-cent tutor. And sure, you might discard your artifact, but I would rather just be able to try and tutor it up with Reckless Handling. Serum Visions is probably one of the best draw spells. Sure, 48 cents kind of hurts. All right, that's $2 for a full playset. That's 10% of your budget for a full playset. However, if you're in blue and you have the extra budget, run Serum Visions. It's going to be better than Opt in most situations. And lastly, Sign in Blood. Sign in Blood isn't as good as Night's Whisper. All right, you have to play 2 black specific, which kind of sucks. But Sign in Blood can either theoretically finish off an opponent if they're at really low life, or draw you 2 cards. And a 2-mana draw 2 is always going to be solid as long as you can cast it. But overall, those are some of the most important cards that go into my thinking. And a lot of times, those are the last editions, right? I have, I have a full, energy game plan, right? and I'm just going to throw in Path to Exile to just bump up my removal a little bit more, right? Or I have I have a full, let's just say I've got like Minotaurs, right? I'm going to throw in Cathartic Pyre because it's going to help out my game plan. I'm going to throw in Cathartic Reunion to help the game plan. But like overall, they're just solid cards too that aren't going to take away too much. Um, and a lot of them also don't rack up the budget, right? Wizards Rockets, in my opinion, in a kitchen table format like this where the decks are going against each other, it's perfect to go in every deck. It fixes your colors. It's going to draw you a card if you need a card. It just does everything you need to do. But that's that. Just wanted to show off some of what goes into my deck building. And yeah, peace out. Bye.